Hi everyone, this is Meek and this is part 3 of Loom-a-nology. Today I want to show you rib stitch, single knitted. This is how it looks like. There's a right side and a wrong side, and if you take a closer look they almost look the same. Only this is on the right side you have a knit stitch, and if you are going to look at the wrong side, a purl stitch will appear. I'm going to show you rib stitch done on a loom. The first row you always have to do by counting. Okay, this is knit stitch, this is purl stitch. And when you've done a purl stitch, you do a knit stitch. After the knit, the purl, knit, purl. Okay, when you continue working after a while, you forgot of course where you were. And then you know, I started with a knit stitch, purl stitch, knit stitch, purl stitch, knit stitch, purl stitch. So you continue your first row. Knit stitch, purl stitch, knit stitch, purl stitch. Now the difference between the knit stitch and the purl stitch is of course where your working yarn is, below or above. And if you keep in mind that when you do a knit stitch, a rib will appear after your peg or behind your peg, and when you do a purl stitch, a V shape will appear inside the loom. Then you have knowledge enough to do the ribbing without making any mistakes. Now I have 10 stitches, so it always starts either with a knit or a purl, and it ends with, when you started with a knit it will end with a purl, and when we start with a purl it will end with a knit. So you can write that down, you can make a note of it, so you know when I'm working from the right side of the loom, I always start with a knit stitch and I end with a purl, and I'm working from the left, I start with a purl and I end with a knit, but in between. Some things will happen too, and when you check every row, especially in the beginning, you can prevent making mistakes that you have to repair when you're 10 rows, because further when you check it you'll see that mistake. So I start with a purl stitch, working yarn beneath the stitch, and a knit working yarn above the stitch. And as if you have practiced that a lot, so I'm certain I don't have to explain that anymore. I'm now making on purpose a few mistakes so you can see how you can fix that. Okay, telephone is ringing. I don't know where I was, of which one I was knitting, the purl or the knit stitch. I'm looking inside my loom. Here's my working yarn, so I have to knit that back now. This is a ribbing, so I know I'm making, I would have been knitting a knit stitch, so I continue. And as you can see, when your knit stitch or your rib stitch is already a few you have made them already a few, you can already see what's happening. So you see a V shape. Okay, I'm knitting a purl stitch. Of course you can check it again. Okay, here I see the ribbings also behind the back. Here I see the V shape behind the back. Here the ribbings, here the V's. Made a mistake. I put my hook in the stitch below the one on the back. I take it off and I put it back on the back. V shapes. Gee, a ribbing. I want to have a V shape over there. So I just do my hook in the stitch below and I put it back on the back. Okay, check. Now, when you have knitted these 20 times or more, you will see it in one look. Okay, here we have, you just pull at that yarn. Here we have those two pegs. We accidentally knitted the wrong way. Here is my V shape, so I'll knit that one purlwise and put it back on the loom. Here I see the ribbings, so I know this one I have to knit knitwise. These were my two. I will I will show it to you, and as you can see, all V's and all ribbings. And of course you can knit this way. You say knit, purl, knit, purl out loud or just silently. But there comes a time you don't know which one was you have to be doing, so you just check the inside of your loom. And the V shape is always the purl and the ribbing is always the knit stitch. This is the wrong side of your knit work. Okay, this was the garter stitch. Hope you enjoyed watching and see you some other time. Bye bye.